No, they said they were going to spend $70 billion on housing. What happened to housing? It got a lot more expensive. Went from about $450,000 for the average house to $716,000. So now home buyers are paying more and taxpayers are paying more for the same thing that used to cost less to both. I just hope that they don't get the same results on childcare that they got on housing, because God knows parents are paying too much as it is.
Now, the honourable member for Carleton will have 3 minutes of questions coming to him when we return. And for now, we'll go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Scarborough-Agincourt.
I want to thank the people of Scarborough-Agincourt for placing their trust in me once again as their elected representative in Ottawa. Special thanks also to my 3 sons and the many volunteers that were so supportive. I will represent my constituents on the issues that matter most to them: recovery from the pandemic, supporting families and workers, helping small businesses, and assisting seniors who deserve to age comfortably in retirement. Recently, we welcomed the new Minister of Seniors in my riding, and we toured Seniors Person Living Connected, a local nonprofit organization doing good work in servicing the diverse needs of over 2,500 seniors and caregivers in our community. We saw firsthand the positive impact of the New Horizons for Seniors program, including a hybrid exercise class for seniors to participate together both in person and virtually. I am delighted that the new intake for this program opened last week. Initiatives such as these represents our government's commitment to support Canadians, and I look forward to continuing this work for Scarborough-Agincourt. Thank you.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Mr. Speaker, it's a tremendous honour for me to rise in the House of Commons today to give my opening remarks in the 44th Parliament as the re-elected representative for the beautiful riding of Niagara Falls. I want to sincerely thank the great people of Niagara-on-the-Lake, Niagara Falls, and Fort Erie for continuing to place their confidence in me by returning me to this incredible chamber, the People's House, to represent them in their issues. I want to also take a moment to thank those dedicated volunteers who supported me during the campaign. What we achieved on election night was only made possible because of the hard work of everyone involved. I also want to thank my entire family, including my beautiful wife, Carol, and son, Daniel. I would not be standing here today if not for their continued love and support. Lastly, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you, Mr. Speaker, on your recent election. I look forward to working with all my parliamentary colleagues in both chambers as we work to resolve the many pressing issues facing Canadians today. Let's get to work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bonavista Burin Trinity.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honour a great man we recently lost in Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Frederick B. Rowe, a father, a grandfather, an educator, and a politician. He had a passion for politics and spent his life dedicated to improving grassroots democracy here in our province, and he leaves behind a strong legacy of community building. Mr. Rowe had a long career in politics, including being elected as an MHA for 2 provincial districts, and later becoming a long-time director of the Newfoundland and Labrador Liberal Party. He was known as a true grit, with a lot of tenacity. He built many bridges of cooperation and friendship along the way. He was a lover of sea explorations and of humorous stories, and a great lover of his children and grandchildren. He embodied a lot of the characteristics that makes Newfoundland and Labrador so proud and unique. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of this entire Parliament, I want to send condolences to his wife of 61 years, Sandra, his entire family, and to everyone who was touched by his decades of public service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The
honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, in Quebec alone, 600,000 people need to use a food bank every month, according to Food Bank Quebec. As the holidays approach, I want to highlight the strong support shown by my constituents. No fewer than 8 food drives are currently being held in Mirabel. Thank you to Maison de la Famille of Mirabel, the Knights of Columbus of Sainte-Anne-des-Plaines, Knights of Columbus of Pointe-de-Calumet, and Knights of Columbus of Sainte-Marthe-sur-le-Lac, the Oka Optimist Club, the Social Action Committee in Saint-Joseph-du-Lac, and the firefighters of the municipality of Saint-Placide. Along with your amazing volunteers, you're doing excellent work that is making a difference in the lives of hundreds of families. Thanks to each and every one of you for your strong show of solidarity. I invite everybody in Mirabel to take part and to give generously. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour for me to rise in this House for the first time in this Parliament to say thank you to all the constituents in my riding of Saint-Laurent. Once again, they have put their faith in me and given me a third mandate to represent them in the House.
To represent you as well as possible in Ottawa. I would also like to thank my tireless team of volunteers who made it possible to get our message out and to get the vote out. I could not have done it without them. I'd like to highlight 3 people in particular who were there every single day: Yasmin, Aldo, and Kurian. Thank you for your hard work and for the great laughs. My campaign manager, Pina, thank you for all of the time and effort that you put into our campaign and for being the best emotional support on the more difficult days. And last but certainly not least, I would like to thank my family for their consistent support over the last 4.5 years. Mom, Dad, Yanni, and Yaya, thank you for always being my #1 fans.
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Last week, Regina hosted Canadian Western Agribition. This year was the show's 50th anniversary. Often referred to as the best beef show on the planet, Agribition is the largest livestock event in Canada, serving as an agricultural trade hub for ranchers and agribusinesses. Throughout the history of the event, millions of dollars of economic development have passed through Evraz Place in Regina, as producers share best practices, innovations in agribusiness technology, and most importantly, our Canadian world-renowned livestock genetics. Mr. Speaker, those who attended the show this year said it was a rousing success and a great opportunity to again visit with old and new friends in person after the postponement of last year's show. I ask members to join me in thanking Agribition CEO Chris Lane, his leadership team, and all the hard-working volunteers that made sure the show ran so smoothly. And I also look forward to once again having our leader and even more conservative colleagues come out to the Agribition next year, because once you get a taste of our Western hospitality, you'll be sure not to want to miss out on all the fun.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Speaker, today, November 30th, is a special day. After Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it's Giving Tuesday, a global movement of generosity. In my riding of Dartmouth Cole Harbour, we see kindness every single day. We see it in the charities and nonprofits that lift our community up. We see it in our courageous and selfless frontline workers who continue to get us through this pandemic. And we see it in the wonderful volunteers who organize community events and programs, including the coaches, Mr. Speaker, who show up at 6 a.m. for our kids' hockey practices.
Hear, hear.
On Giving Tuesday, let's all find a way to be generous and to do what we can to keep our communities amazing. Please consider signing up to volunteer with your favorite organization or make a donation. You could even perform a random act of kindness in your community. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking everyone across Canada to inspire each other to do good on Giving Tuesday and all year long. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Giving Tuesday.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an honor to rise as a newly elected member for the first time in this Parliament on behalf of my constituents in Richmond Centre. I'd like to thank you to my community. Thank you for exercising your right to vote and placing your trust in me as your representative in Ottawa. I'm here because of all of you. I'm also wanting to thank my friends, volunteers, and everyone who helped me during my campaign, as well as my family, especially my mother, Lisa, my 2 sisters, Jenny and Connie, my partner, Zoe, and my father, Michael, who is watching us from above. Congratulations to all my colleagues across the floor on being elected and re-elected. And I'd like to congratulate on your re-election as a speaker. I look forward to peacefully working with every one of you to resolve issues that matter most to Canadians and constituents of Richmond Centre. As we move forward through these challenging times, our communities need this House to be more united than ever, so we may create a real change and meaningful process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Charleswood St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, Jewish communities across Canada have welcomed the beginning of Hanukkah. For 8 nights, Jewish families across Canada will gather to light the menorah and tell of the miracle of Hanukkah. The 8-day Festival of Lights celebrates the triumph of the Maccabees over their oppressors over 2 millennia ago. This week, Jewish homes and communities light up in celebration of the miracles that have upheld the Jewish people over the centuries. Hanukkah is an opportunity to reflect on life's blessings and honor the resilience of the Jewish people in the face of immense adversity. It's also a time to recognize the challenges still experienced by Jewish communities, including unacceptable acts of anti-Semitism in our communities. Canada is blessed to be home to such a vibrant and engaged Jewish community that has enriched our society. From my family to yours, I wish all celebrating tonight a very happy Hanukkah. Chag Hanukkah Sameach.
The Honourable Member for Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, we are heartbroken to hear of the tragic passing of our colleague and friend, the Honourable Senator José Forêt-Nising. Her ambition to help others was embedded in her DNA. She was a fierce advocate and champion for those most vulnerable, promoting abilities of people and protecting our environment.
She shared the passion of her parents, Norm and Marie-Paul, in protecting language, culture, and heritage. Her long list of incredible achievements and the generosity, the number of people she touched and helped will never be forgotten. A fund has been created in memory of Senator José Forêt-Nising on the names of the people of Sudbury. We will always remember her beautiful smile and her love of life. Our sincere condolences to her spouse, Robert, her children, Veronique and Philippe, her mother, Marie-Paul, her sisters, Sylvie and Dominique, and all those who loved her and knew her. Rest in peace, José, dear friend of all.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, growing up, forestry fed my family. Forestry remains vital to the people of Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Hear, hear.
6 days after the Prime Minister visited Washington, D.C., the United States doubled tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. This incident demonstrates what we've learned over the past 6 years. The Prime Minister has no influence over our largest trading partner. He's not respected on the world stage, and he doesn't care about our natural resources. There are thousands of people in my community who depend on forestry, and these tariffs put their homes, families, and livelihoods in jeopardy. Our forest workers deserve to have someone in their corner, and I want the people in my community to know that Conservatives will fight for their jobs and their families, even if this government won't. Thank you.
Congratulations.
The Honourable Member for Mission Maskey Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, yet another atmospheric river is hitting BC. We're bracing for and actively experiencing even more flooding. I will be pushing the recently formed Federal Provincial BC Flood Recovery Committee for the critical infrastructure small communities can't afford, dike repairs, and a revamp of our emergency response policy to learn from our mistakes. It goes without saying that highways and railways remain washed out, and many in our rural and predominantly Indigenous communities are stranded with more unpredictable weather on the way. With this lack of control can lead to feelings of hopelessness, we must not despair. We are more coordinated than we were last week, and we'll be better next week. Thank you to the volunteers, emergency workers, the military personnel, and everyone who has donated financially across Canada. Canadians banding together to help each other is what makes Canada the best country on earth. I will be positively relentless in my pursuit for the resources British Columbia needs today and tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
Mr. Speaker, Manitoulin Island recently lost 2 political titans. Earlier this month, the Township of Billings lost legendary municipal leader Austin Hunt. From his earliest days as Lester B. Pearson's driver to a 65-year municipal career that saw him retire as the longest-serving politician in Canada, Austin was a force. His vision for municipal politics resonated throughout the North, including his work as a charter member of the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities. Then last week, Anishinaabe Nation head Gordon Wendubens began his journey into the spirit world. A resident of Shawinda First Nation, Gordon worked to unite the Anishinaabe Nation and preserve the culture and language. He sought to bring back the traditional clan system and create the Anishinaabe Constitution in order to strengthen the traditional governance structure. Anishinaabe Grand Chief Reg Naganobi said Gord's teachings and kindness will continue to be shared well into the future. Our deepest sympathies to the families and communities of these leaders who left indelible marks on Manitoulins' political culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, we commemorated the 70th anniversary of Hill 355, a battle that took place in 1951 during the Korean War. Hill 355 was the strategic location that needed to be defended and led in the mud, snow, and cold. This long and painful battle would never have succeeded without the heroic participation of French-Canadian soldiers from the 22nd Regiment, including one Leo Major. In fact, just a few years after liberating a town on his own and taking 93 enemy soldiers prisoner during the Second World War, our Quebec Rambo had another military miracle. Thanks to his courage, know-how, and his stubbornness, Leo Major led his troop to another military success at Hill 355. Mr. Speaker, this conflict might be called the Forgotten War, but in Quebec, we will remember.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, as we enter the holiday season, Canadians have unwrapped that we are an inflation nation and that our housing costs are second highest in the world. In Bay of Quinte, a newly retired senior reached out to my office this week asking for help and getting additional funding because her dream of retirement has become a nightmare. She lives in a modest home, but with rising costs, she cannot survive on her CPP and AOS. She takes home over $820 a month and doesn't know if she will afford to live in her home for much further because of the inflation tax on housing. Mrs. Hanna wrote to me, everything has increased in cost and we're not able to afford some groceries, heat our home if we're going to be homeless. It's not fair to say that it's just inflation when it comes to housing and it's just world problems when it's Canadians' right to afford to put a roof over their head and afford a home. Mr. Speaker, we must work together to fix this inflation tax on housing to ensure we keep a roof over the heads for our seniors and to all citizens of Canada. That is the gift Canadians want to see from their government this season.
The Honourable Member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, the holidays are fast approaching, and Operation Red Nose, the Safe Ride Home service, will once again help to ensure that our roads are kept safe. This year, Operation Red Nose in Vaudreuil-Soulanges is seeking once again dedicated volunteers to work in teams of 3 to ensure safe ride home every Friday and Saturday through the month of December. Once again, my office team and I will be among them, and I invite all those who can to join us and to register as a volunteer at OperationNezRouge.com.
All members of my community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges who are planning an office gathering or simply having a few friends or family members over to celebrate the season, to please continue to do your part and plan ahead. Booking your Nez Rouge ride is easier than ever through the free Nez Rouge app and can be done the night of. So spread the word, spread the cheer, and together we can make sure this holiday season is safe. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
And before going to questions, I just want to remind the honourable members that statements by members are 60 seconds long, and they're goodwill and they're good statements. I don't want to have to cut them off, so please be prepared for the next member statements. Oral questions, question orale, l'honorable député de Louis Saint-Laurent.
The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, for months, all Canadian families have been suffering from an increasing cost of living. We call that inflation. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, things are just getting worse. This morning in Washington, the chair of the Federal Reserve talked about persistent inflation. We can't keep rushing ahead, headlong into inflation. We have to face reality. What the government needs to start by doing is something it hasn't done for 6 years. Limit spending. Will the government finally limit spending? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the main economic priority for Canada is to put this pandemic behind us. We need to do everything we can to end COVID-19, which is causing major harms throughout our economy and throughout the world. The last 2 years have been difficult for Canadians. COVID has created immense harms within our families, our businesses, our communities. There have been disruptions to the supply chains. And due to the pandemic and these supply chain disruptions, Canadians are facing increasing costs. That's particularly hard as the holidays are coming up. We will be there for Canadians during this difficult time. The Honourable Member for Louise Saint Laurent. Well, Canadians are already experiencing difficulty with rampant inflation. Prices are going up. I will hand one thing to the Prime Minister. He did say something true recently. He said, I don't think about monetary policy. Well, for once, he told the truth. But not thinking about monetary policy was the wrong thing to do. If we really want to help Canadian families and stop inflation, we need this government to stop spending. We need it to limit spending, something it hasn't done for the last 6 years. Will this government finally limit spending? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the best thing we can do to stimulate the Canadian economy, to help Canadian families, is to control COVID. And that's what we've been doing since the very beginning. With investments that the Conservatives opposed to support students, families, workers, we will continue to be there for Canadians who need help. And we will continue to move forward with vaccination, which is our strongest tool to get us out of the pandemic. As almost all of us know, it is vaccination that will help us get through this pandemic. Unfortunately, the Conservatives don't seem to be able to understand that. The Honourable Member for Louise Saint Laurent. Unfortunately for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, this government's inflationist policies aren't doing anything other than increase prices. France, Japan, the UK, Germany, and other countries are also facing COVID, but they're not seeing such high inflation as we are here in Canada. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I have a simple question. Will this government finally do what anyone responsible should do, which is to say limit spending, as it hasn't done for 6 years? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, these other countries mentioned by my colleague are also facing an inflation crisis, because this is a global inflation crisis, because it is caused by disruptions to the global supply chain and also caused by the repercussions of COVID. However, Canada is well positioned to help families, as we've been doing throughout the pandemic. We've been investing to help families. We've been fighting the housing crisis. We've been helping with childcare. We've been investing to help families get through this crisis and rebuild the economy.
Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Well, there you have it again, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister talks about land prices with relation to supply chain. Our land isn't affected by supply chain prices. This Prime Minister has, in fact, overseen the largest increase in home and land prices of any Prime Minister. It's driving home ownership out of reach for Canadians, but it's also driving the price of rent up for Canadians, meaning that they can't afford food for their families, gas for their car to get to work, and certainly can't afford to save for their dreams. So the question is very simple for this Prime Minister. Is he going to pass the buck on this housing bubble, or will he just admit that it's just inflation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, yes, supply chains have an important role to play in the global inflationary crisis we're facing right now. But so, too, does this pandemic we just came through, something the member for Leeds Grenville did not mention at all. We know that this pandemic has had a significant impact on housing prices, on challenges faced by families. That's why priority one on fighting inflation and on growing the economy needs to be ending this pandemic once and for all, something the vast majority of Canadians understand understand, goes through vaccination. Unfortunately, Conservatives don't seem to get that.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, I'm really excited to tell the Prime Minister that the folks who elected this Conservative for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes have the highest vaccination rate, not just in this province, but in this country. So this Prime Minister wants to play games. He should be thinking about monetary policy. But instead, you know what? He doesn't. So I'm going to ask the Prime Minister the question. It's very simple. Is he going to pass the buck, play political games, or will he finally admit that this is just inflation?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I have no intention of playing the kind of political or word games that the opposition does. We will stay focused on being there for Canadians, and the number one way to support Canadians through the challenges they're facing right now is to end this pandemic once and for all, and that means making sure everyone gets vaccinated. And I congratulate the constituents of the member opposite for being so strongly vaccinated. Maybe he could use some of his constituents to convince some of his colleagues to get vaccinated.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On November 18th, the Prime Minister was at the Three Amigos Summit. We could have hoped that between amigos, things would have been open, transparent, and frank. But on the 24th, the U.S. doubled punitive tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. I have a simple question for the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker. What did they talk about at the summit? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, at our meeting with the U.S., we discussed many important issues for Canadians, including COVID, automobiles, softwood lumber, potatoes. We discussed many different issues that affect our two countries on which we will be able to work together and where we hope to be able to settle our disputes. We raised again the issue that unfair tariffs on softwood lumber aren't good either for Canadians or U.S. consumers. So we will keep working hard and fighting for the interest of our forestry industry. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Very clearly, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is much less good at handling softwood lumber than potatoes. I know that it's hard to trade with a commercial giant. But the U.S. does buy our electricity, our lumber, and our lithium. Canada's weakness on the international stage currently is deplorable. It would clearly be better for Quebec to be able to negotiate alone on the international stage. But for now, will the Canadian Prime Minister ask the U.S. to remove these unfair tariffs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, these softwood lumber tariffs are unjustified and they hurt consumers and businesses on both sides of the border. The Minister of International Trade raised the issue with the U.S. We will continue to strongly defend our softwood lumber industry and its workers, just as we have been defending our aluminum industry and our steel industry when the U.S. wanted to impose punitive tariffs on those industries. We will always be there to defend Canadians' interests and advance our economic interests.
For Burnaby South.
Canadians are faced with a housing crisis that is striking hard on all Canadians across the country. It is so difficult for anyone to find a home that's in their budget. The previous and the former governor of the Bank of Canada states really clearly that the federal government has a role in tackling this housing crisis. We agree. The federal government needs to tackle the pressures driving up the cost of housing through speculation and address the supply side issue by building more homes that people can actually afford. People are desperately in need of help. Why is this Prime Minister not responding with to this crisis with the urgency necessary?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, as outlined in the speech from the throne, housing is a major priority for this government and we will deliver. with programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund, which will help municipalities build more and better faster. Whether it's building more units per year or increasing affordable housing, we will work with partners to get real results for Canadian families. We'll also help families buy their first home sooner with a more flexible first-time homebuyers incentive, a new rent-to-own program, and by reducing the closing costs for first-time buyers. We will respond to this housing crisis in ways that supports Canadians.
Le député de Burnaby Sud.
The honourable member for Burnaby South. Mr. Speaker, the housing crisis is extremely severe. People can't find affordable housing. The former Bank of Canada governor has clearly stated that the federal government has a role to play to fix this problem. And we agree. The government needs to do something about the pressures that are pushing housing prices up. And the federal government needs to make sure that more social and affordable housing is built. People are desperate, Mr. Speaker. Why isn't the Prime Minister doing something about this emergency with the housing crisis? Why isn't he behaving with urgency to settle this matter? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the speech from the throne, it was clearly stated that housing is a major priority for our government, and we will deliver the goods through programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund that will help municipalities to build faster, better, and more. By growing the number of homes built per year and increasing the amount of affordable housing, we will work hard with our partners in order to deliver real results for Canadian families. And I will encourage all members in this House to work with us to fight the housing crisis with targeted investments to help Canadians.
For Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House prices have risen by 22% across Canada since this minister was placed in the finance portfolio, and that is not just due to the pandemic or to the supply chain disruptions, because land prices are also increasing. Why does this government refuse to admit that it's a matter of just inflation?
Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, during the election campaign, the Conservatives unveiled a housing plan that would have made homes more expensive for Canadians. Let's look at their ideas. Reducing taxes on the sale of rental properties. That would have encouraged speculation and created a tax advantage for wealthy Canadians. It would have ultimately made homes into investment vehicles instead of places for people to live. Whereas here on this side of the House, we have a clear plan.
Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But here's the problem. Land does not have supply chains. It is already underneath our feet. And yet land prices have inflated 20% during a year, driving housing inflation. Other countries had COVID disruptions, yet according to Bloomberg, Canada has the second worst housing bubble, and Toronto and Vancouver are more unaffordable than almost every city on Earth.
Unbelievable.
Why does Canada have the second worst housing bubble in the world? Is it just inflation?
Good question.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker. Election campaign, the Conservatives put forward a housing plan that would have made homes more expensive for Canadians. They proposed a tax giveaway for selling rental properties that would have encouraged speculation and created a financial incentive for wealthy Canadians to turn houses into investment vehicles rather than places to live. Mr. Speaker, politicians in glass houses should not throw stones.
Honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here's the challenge. If the only answer is government subsidies and assistance, then they're further distorting the market, which means for every family that you help, you push house prices out of reach for another family.
Exactly.
They're spending all kinds of money to make housing more expensive for taxpayers and home buyers. Why does Canada, with among the most abundant supply of land in the entire world, have the second worst housing bubble in the world. Is it just inflation?
The Honourable Minister.
Here are the facts. In our 6 years of being in government, we have spent $4,500 million a year to build more housing in this country for Canadians. What is the Conservative record? $250 million a year, Mr. Speaker. Those are the facts. Secondly, when we introduced the Canada Housing Benefit,
I want to hear the answer because it was a good question. I want to hear the answer. Maybe let the Minister, if he can start over right from the beginning, this way we can hear it.
Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. In our 6 years in office, for every year that we've been in power, we've spent $4,500 million investing in providing more housing for Canadians. What is their record? $250 million a year, Mr. Speaker. Second, when we've brought in the Canada Housing Benefit to put money directly into the pockets of Canadians so that they can pay their rent, they voted against it. Mr. Speaker, when we've brought in help for co-ops, the best form of housing for middle-class Canadians, they voted against it. Mr. Speaker, when we have put forward rapid housing initiative for cities to build housing, permanent housing solutions for the most vulnerable, they voted against it.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
So let's get this straight. When Conservatives were in power, according to him, we spent $250 million on housing, and the average house cost Canadians $450 grand. Now, with them in power, they're spending $27 billion tax dollars, and the average house costs $720 grand. So now housing is not just more expensive for taxpayers, it's more expensive for home buyers. Failing is bad, Mr. Speaker. Failing expensively is even worse. Mr. Speaker, why do we have the second biggest housing bubble in the world?
The Honourable Minister.
Can see through that partisan rhetoric, Mr. Speaker. Here are the facts. The fact is they invested $0 in co-ops. They downloaded housing costs to municipalities and provinces. The reason we have a housing crisis is because they had no leadership in housing for their time in office. Here's the fact. We brought in federal leadership in housing. We've introduced the National Housing Strategy. We're working more than ever before with municipalities. And we're bringing in a first-time home buyer incentive to make sure that we're turning Canadians into home buyers.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
He seems to be bragging that he's the most expensive housing minister in Canadian history. Because not only are Canadians spending more when they buy a house, now they have to pay more on their taxes for the failed programs that this minister and this government put in place to inflate the housing bubble to begin with. Canada has the second biggest housing bubble in the world, behind a tiny island in the South Pacific called New Zealand. Every other country has less housing inflation. So what is causing this massive bubble? Is it just inflation?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since the member from Carleton has referred to inflation, let's do a little bit of fact-checking of what we heard in the House earlier today. The member for Louis Saint Laurent referred to Germany having higher inflation than Canada. So I'd like to urge the honourable members to check their facts before they come into this House, because this morning, Germany reported 6% inflation. The Eurozone this morning reported 4.9% inflation. Even the leader of the Conservatives has admitted he understands inflation is a global phenomenon. I wish other members of his party would listen to him sometimes.
Member for Carleton.
Well, listen, maybe the Prime Minister would listen to the Deputy Prime Minister's book, and in that book, she could explain how she has managed to create the second biggest housing bubble in the world. In fact, Vancouver has the second highest home prices on Earth. Toronto is number 5, more expensive than Manhattan, San Francisco, London, England, other places with far less land, far more people, and far more money. This is housing inflation that has resulted since this government unleashed a torrent of money printing. So, will this finance minister finally tell us what is causing this housing bubble? Is it just inflation?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, if the Conservatives really disagree with Stephen Pallose, appointed by Stephen Harper as Governor of the Bank of Canada, and they really believe that COVID was the time for austerity, it's time for them to come clean with Canadians and talk about what they would have cut. Would they have cut the CERB that supported 9 million Canadians who lost their jobs? Would they have cut the wage subsidy that supported 450,000 employers, keeping 5.3 million hardworking people on the payroll? Or would they have cut CEBA that supported nearly 900,000 businesses? Canadians need to know.
That's right.
I just want to remind the honourable members that I do have a clock in front and I can tell the time. I appreciate the help that they're trying to give me, but I do have that here. L'honorable député de Repentigny.
The honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the fossil energy industry is planning 1,363 new wells drilled in 2022, mostly oil wells. However, Canada is fully supplied in oil. It does not need more oil, which means that this oil will be exported and will need pipelines to get to the world markets. However, the only new pipeline project for export is Trans Mountain, which the government owns. We are in the middle of a climate crisis. Will the minister denounce the increase in oil production and confirm that his government will not promote it through its own pipeline? The Honourable Minister.
Anyone? Where's the bicycle?
Oh, we're online.
C'est bien que la montre derrière les changements climatiques inclut les émissions de gaz à effet de
serre. As Her Excellency the Governor General mentioned in the throne speech, our government will cap emissions from the energy sector in such a way as to protect jobs and the environment. We commit to cap and reduce emissions by 2050 in the energy sector. And the entire country will become carbon neutral. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, we see this government trying to justify the unjustifiable. Let's keep talking about Trans Mountain. We know that the flooding in BC have exposed entire sections of the pipeline to debris. We can see that Trans Mountain, due to climate change, is at an even higher risk of oil spills. So it's a doubly harmful project, Mr. Speaker. On the one hand, it is accelerating climate change, and then on the other hand, those same effects of climate change are increasing the risk of a spill. It's a lose-lose for the environment. How can the minister sanction the export of this dirty oil through this doubly harmful pipeline? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Inaudible for the interpreter. Unfortunately, the quality of the sound does not permit interpretation, which will resume when the sound improves.
les émissions, tout en maintenant la compétitivité, la sécurité énergétique, l'abordabilité et l'accès au marché. L'expansion du Trans Mountain nous permet d'y...
Je vais interrompre le ministre. Order. Alors, nous avons un problème de son. Je ne sais pas si c'est...
There is a sound problem. It may have to do with the position of the mic. We don't have interpretation, and I myself can't hear the minister very well. So I will ask the minister to start over so that we can hear his entire answer. Mr. Speaker, the government is working with industry, including TMC, in order to decarbonize the energy sector and cap emissions while maintaining competitiveness, energy security, affordability, and access to markets. The Trans Mountain expansion enables us to use the resources we have today and the revenue generated to fund green technologies tomorrow. We must work together with all Canadians and all regions of Canada.
Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, historically, Nova Scotia has been excluded from softwood lumber duties and tariffs imposed by the U.S. because any exemption earned in litigation is carried forward to future agreements. These exemptions have always been defended by Canada. until now. Nova Scotia has not received a firm commitment from this government that this exemption will be preserved. Will the government commit to Nova Scotia's lumber workers that this exemption will be defended?
That's right.
Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for that question. We will always defend the interests of the forestry sector and the workers that they employ. And in a relationship as large as the one we have with the United States, we will always work together to solve and resolve issues. I will be speaking to my counterpart, the U.S. Trade Representative, later this afternoon, but I'm pleased that tomorrow I will lead a Team Canada group that includes members from all sides of this House to Washington to continue our government's advocacy and to stand up for Canadian interests.
Well, member for Tobic-Mactaquac.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians were once again blindsided by the doubling of tariffs on Canadian lumber. This is another example of the Prime Minister failing Canadians and failing Canada's natural resource sector. In my own riding, there are mills that continue to suffer as a result of this Prime Minister's failure on international trade. Historically, New Brunswick has been exempt from these tariffs, and the operators believe that they should still be exempt. When will the Prime Minister get off the backs of Canadian workers, including those in the natural resource and forestry sectors, and stand up for their interest, including those in New Brunswick?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian softwood lumber is an absolute priority for our federal government. I am looking forward tomorrow to take a Team Canada to Washington, where we will stand up for Canada and we will continue to advocate for Canadian businesses, for the forestry sector, for the workers that they employ. We've done this before. We will continue to do this, standing up for Canadians.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. U.S. Trade Representative Kai has been waiting since May to start negotiations on softwood lumber. Yesterday, the Minister of International Trade stated in the House that softwood lumber industry will provide her with a mandate on negotiating with the United States. U.S. tariffs on softwood have been in place since 2015. Mr. Speaker, it's been 6 years. Please don't tell me the minister doesn't yet know what the industry wants.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has taken this issue up at CUSMA, at the NAFTA panel, at the WTO. In 2020, it was ruled that Canada indeed was a fair trading partner. We're going to continue to stand up for the rights of Canada's forestry sector and its workers. But I have shared with the U.S. Trade Representative and U.S. interlocutors that, of course, we would be open to an agreement that will bring predictability and stability. But we're not going to take any agreement. We're going to negotiate an agreement that's a good agreement for Canada.
That's right.
The honourable member for Calgary, Nose Hill.
The agreement we have for Canada right now under this government is pretty bad. I mean, they doubled the tariff. So given that this minister's most noteworthy trade event that she's been on involved a ice cream parlor in Beijing, can she please let the House know if she intends to give the Americans notice that they intend to litigate under Chapter 10 of CUSMA regarding the tariffs, or if they intend to give notice on any other retaliatory measures and what those are? It's been 6 years. It's time to act.
Honourable Minister.
We have consistently defended the forestry sector, whether it is at the NAFTA panel, whether it is through CUSMA. I would remind the honourable member that we only have Chapter 10 in CUSMA because we preserve that dispute settlement mechanism in CUSMA. We will fight for Canadian businesses, the softwood lumber industry. We've done a pretty good job in the work that's defending steel and aluminum tariffs. We're going to continue standing up for this sector and industries all across the country.
Member for Edmonton, Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are outraged by the Liberal government's failure to protect our allies and the women, religious minorities, and people who are most vulnerable in Afghanistan. Experts have stated that Afghanistan is now amongst the world's worst humanitarian crises. 23 million Afghans are at risk of starving. But the UN World Food Programme has said the government's response has been like a drop in the ocean. Will this minister act with the urgency and scale required to prevent a humanitarian disaster in Afghanistan?
The Honourable Minister of International Development.
Mr. Speaker, we are very concerned about the escalating humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. As winter approaches, it is critical that the international community works collectively to meet the needs of vulnerable Afghans. Canada continues to collaborate with allies and others in the region to address the humanitarian crisis. And in fact, I was just on the phone call with the Special Representative, Deborah Lyons, today to look at the next steps of what the international community can do. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for South Okanagan West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, I recently spoke to the Mayor of Princeton, whose community of 2,800 suffered damage when the Tulameen River overflowed. He's deeply concerned that his community won't be able to rebuild under traditional disaster funding, which forces municipalities to pay 20%. A $10 million restoration would cost Princeton $2 million, a bill they would struggle to repay. The impacts of the climate crisis are getting worse every day. So will this government help small communities by waiving or reducing this requirement?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for this very important question. And just last week, the Prime Minister and I traveled to British Columbia, and we visited with many of the impacted communities, and it's very clear that there's going to require an extraordinary effort to recover and to rebuild from the devastating flooding that has taken place in British Columbia. Mr. Speaker, we have announced that we are forming a joint committee working with both the provincial and federal governments, but also bringing Indigenous leadership to the table, and communication and coordination with those municipal leaders is going to be a critical part of our response. Mr. Speaker, we know that there's a great deal of work to do, and we are prepared to be there for the people of British Columbia as they recover and rebuild from these devastating floods.
Honourable Member for Halifax West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the doorsteps in Halifax West, I heard loud and clear that housing was a pressing issue for my constituents. Selon les chiffres de la société.
According to Canadian real estate statistics, the cost of housing increased about 20% in Nova Scotia over the last year. This is a huge challenge, particularly given these skyrocketing costs in my riding.
We know we need to build more housing and ensure that young people and new Canadians are not shut out from buying their first home. Can the Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion update the House on the government's plan to add to our housing stock, maintain affordability, and unlock home ownership?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague, the member for Halifax West, for her question, and I also want to congratulate her on her election.
Struggle to find a safe and affordable place to call home. That is why we're introducing an ambitious plan to make housing even more affordable. We will introduce a $4 billion housing accelerator fund, enhance the first-time homebuyer incentive, and introduce a groundbreaking and innovative rent-to-own program that will turn Canadian renters into homeowners. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, a wave of deadly violence in Montreal has claimed the lives of a number of teenagers in the last week. The Premier of Quebec and the Minister of Public Safety in Quebec are demanding that this Liberal government take responsibility. For years, we've been trying to convince this Prime Minister that violent murders are committed by street gangs and organized crimes, not by law-abiding people. But he's been attacking farmers and sports shooters. When will he take action against the real cause of this violence? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, we've taken significant measures to fight gun violence. We've made investments to improve investigation capacity. We've set up a working group with the U.S., work that we moved forward on last week when I had the opportunity to have constructive conversations with my American counterpart, and we're going to be working together with the government of Quebec to work on this issue. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I'd like the Minister of Public Safety today to confirm that the problem in Canada today is a problem of illegal arms crossing the country, crossing the border into the country. It's not sport shooters and farmers who are law-abiding gun owners. I'd like to hear the Minister confirm that. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, There are a lot of challenges in this file. That's why our government took concrete steps to work on it. We're continuing to find and implement concrete solutions, like, for example, a ban on military-style weapons and improved security at the border. For example, we've made investments to create spaces within our communities to work on prevention. And we will continue on that path. Thank you.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
In a radio interview with CBC Calgary on Friday morning, the member from Calgary Skyview suggested he and his team are under investigation by the Commissioner of Elections Canada for stealing campaign literature from Conservative candidate Jag Sahota. His reference to the team being investigated is new information that suggests there was an organized effort on the part of his campaign team to engage in widespread stealing of Sahota's campaign material. Simple question to the Prime Minister. If the member from Calgary Skyview is found guilty, will the Prime Minister remove him from caucus?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member has apologized. He's fully cooperating with Elections Canada. As it goes through his process, that process will continue.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
It's really a simple answer, Mr. Speaker, and that answer should be yes. But again, we see the hypocrisy of the Prime Minister operating on a different set of rules. Jody Wilson-Raybould was booted from caucus for not wanting to interfere in a criminal prosecution, yet by his own admission and compelling video evidence showing the member from Calgary Skyview stealing the campaign material and replacing it with false information, he gets to stay in caucus. So I ask again, will the member from Calgary Skyview be removed from caucus if he's found guilty?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
As I indicated, the member has apologized. He's working with Elections Canada as it moves through its process. It's incredibly important as these processes work their way forward that they be allowed to do so, Mr. Speaker, and obviously the member will be continuing to cooperate with that process.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, we all share responsibility to act against the shootings that are afflicting Montreal. That's why, yesterday, my colleague, the public safety critic, proposed the creation of a joint squad to fight gun trafficking. However, in response to my colleague's outreached hand, the minister instead used the opportunity to make a partisan attack. Is that a responsible approach, Mr. Speaker? Our young people are being killed in the streets of Montreal, in the Prime Minister's riding, Mr. Speaker, in broad daylight. Will the minister finally acknowledge our attempt to work together here? The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that my heart goes out to the family and friends of Thomas Trudel and all of the families who have lost loved ones to gun violence. We remain focused on this issue. We've promised to invest at least $1 billion to help the provinces and municipalities to ban handguns. And absolutely, I'm always ready to work together with my colleagues across the way. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Avignon-Lamitis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, in spite of all the measures that the ministers mentioned, the reality is that illegal weapons are continuing to circulate in the streets of Montreal. That's the reality on the ground. The minister can't say that his government is doing everything it can to fight gun trafficking at the borders, just as I've never said that it's not doing anything at all. But his government must do more. That's the reality. And he can count on our support. This is not a partisan issue. It's a public safety issue. So what's stopping him from accepting our proposal and creating a joint border arms squad? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. To fight illegal weapons, we invested $125 million. In addition, we transferred $46 million to the province of Quebec. As I already said, we are continuing to work very closely with the United States and the government of Quebec, and my door is always open to anyone who wants to work together on this issue. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Langley-Aldergrove.
Mr. Speaker, about a month ago, Mayor Braun invited the members of Parliament whose ridings touch his city of Abbotsford to a meeting to talk about the aging Sumas Prairie diking system. He explained that the cost of repair would be about $500 million, but the economic impact of a breach of those dikes would be devastating, measured in the billions. Mr. Speaker, about 2 weeks ago, the nightmare came to pass. Can the Minister for Emergency Preparedness tell us what the plan is to make sure that this never happens again?
For emergency preparedness.
Thank you, Member Opposite, for what is a very important question. And just last Friday, I went and visited again with Mayor Braun, along with the Prime Minister, and we heard firsthand the problems that they have had. They acknowledged at the time, as did the Premier of British Columbia, that many years ago, the responsibility for maintaining those dikes was downloaded to the municipalities, and they did not have the capacity to do it. We have made a commitment to British Columbia and to the people impacted by these floods that we will be there for them during the rebuild, and to ensure that we are adaptive and create a greater resiliency for those communities by ensuring that we rebuild in a way which is respectful of the impact that so many of these climate-related events are having on that community.
Member for Abbotsford.
Well, the Prime Minister announced that the government would match flood relief donations only for the Red Cross. Yet local agencies with actual boots on the ground who are helping displaced families have been denied matching funding. The Salvation Army, Mennonite Central Committee, Archway, and churches are feeding and housing victims and cleaning up the mess left behind by the floods. Yet none will receive matching funding. Why? And will the Prime Minister now commit to matching funds for all qualified agencies that are helping out the flood victims?
All the ministers.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Abbotsford for this important question, and it gives me an opportunity to acknowledge the extraordinary generosity of Canadians who have been there for the people of British Columbia impacted by these floods. And we're very, very grateful to acknowledge that generosity. Just last week, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister announced that the federal and provincial governments will in fact match each and every dollar raised by the Canadian Red Cross. So far to date, they've raised $14 million by the Red Cross. That means $42 million available to help the people of British Columbia. Mr. Speaker, the funding will be used by the Canadian Red Cross to support evacuated families. They've done it before for us in Lytton. In Fort McMurray. They're an organization that is well positioned in order to provide meet the needs.
The honourable member for Mission Matsky Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, twice in as many weeks, my constituents in the Fraser Valley and the Fraser Canyon are impacted by widespread flooding. Washed out highways, flooded fields, and swamp barns have impacted agricultural production, and Canadians are incurring huge losses across the board. Food security and our livelihood depend on federal support. Can the minister responsible for Pacific economic development please outline the concrete actions this new agency will take to support the reconstruction of BC roads, dike infrastructure, and other critical infrastructure?
Well, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I know this is a question very much on the minds of people impacted by these floods. And it's why we have established with the British Columbia government a joint committee in order to make sure that all of the ministers whose portfolios have been impacted by these devastating floods are at the table and working collaboratively together. And it also gives us an opportunity to recognize the importance of engaging with Indigenous leadership on these important discussions as well. Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that all orders of government and Indigenous leadership come to the table in order to make sure that we provide the support and assistance that British Columbians need as they rebuild and recover from these devastated floods.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil, Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, sexual orientation and identity cannot and must not be modified according to ideas of what is normal. Can the Minister of Justice tell this House why banning the cruel and degrading practice of conversion therapy must be abolished as a priority by this government? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Longueuil-Charlemagne for the question. She's absolutely right. Many survivors have described this heartbreaking process to us and the terrible consequences it has had on their physical and mental health. I hope all members of this House will agree. No Canadian should be subject to torture in order to change who they are or who they love. That's why we've tabled a bill to ban conversion therapy. and I hope that we can count on all parties to support it.
For Regina Louvain.
Mr. Speaker, there are exciting energy projects happening across the prairies that are both sustainable and innovative. Projects equipped with carbon sequestration units, new low-carbon hydrogen and helium facilities, and a Regina company that is getting lithium from mature oil wells. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives are committed to seeing beyond liberal environmental rhetoric and providing results for Canadians. My question is a yes or no question to the activist Environment Minister. Will he come with me and tour some of these facilities, or will he keep his head buried in the sand and continue to wrongfully demonize Western Canadian energy?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. In fact, our government has been hard at work since 2015 to support the transition in Canada and transformation of our energy sector, our transportation sector, our industrial sector to a low-carbon economy for all Canadians and for all sectors of the economy as well as the nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, while many children across Canada look forward to Santa visiting in less than a month, many parents have woken up with their stockings filled with coal, not houses. Parents reflecting on the gifts of massive cash for housing have not just seen rising heating bills. Small business workers have not just had worker shortages. You see, it's just inflation also making housing the second most expensive in the world because there is no supply. Will the Liberals fix the inflation tax on housing by producing supply, not inflation causing cash, or will they be the Grinch that steals Christmas?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we absolutely do believe that increasing supply is an important part of addressing the housing challenge. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? All of us have been talking a lot about the economy today. That is entirely appropriate. So let me propose one thing we can all do to support Canadians in this difficult moment when the Omicron variant has appeared. No, it is to support Bill C2, which provides essential targeted support for tourism and hospitality and critical lockdown support should we need it. Let's set aside partisan posturing and support this essential and urgent legislation.
The Honourable Member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
The speech from the throne left rural Canadians hungry and out in the cold. It ignored their concerns like labour shortages, rising inflation, and the skyrocketing costs of basic necessities like gas, groceries, and heat for their homes and their barns. Rural Canadians like my riding of Lambton, Kent, Middlesex deserve to be a priority. Mr. Speaker, why is the Liberal government always ignoring and leaving rural Canadians behind?
Great. The Honourable Minister.
In the House and the 44th Parliament, I'd like to congratulate you in your seat, all my colleagues here, and of course the members of the Long Range Mountains for electing me the third time. And I'd like to congratulate my colleague opposite in her new role. Mr. Speaker, we do understand rural Canadians, and the number one thing that we're promised to commuting on is connectivity in rural Canada. We have a plan to connect all Canadians by 98% of Canada by 2026. We're well underway to do that. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the discovery of insulin in Canada, we raised the World Diabetes Day flag in Brampton to raise awareness. In June, the House passed Bill C-237, which will lead to a national diabetes strategy. Can the Minister of Health tell us about what steps our government is taking to ensure that Canada is leading in the fight against diabetes?
Of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like first to thank the member from Brampton South for her question and for her strong advocacy on behalf of the diabetes community in Canada. We also want to recognize the severe impact that diabetes has on 3 million Canadians who live with the disease and with their families. Thanks in large part to the hard work of the Member of Parliament for Brampton South and her Bill 237, we are now developing a national framework for diabetes, strengthened by a $25 million investment from Budget 2021. There is much more work to do, Mr. Speaker, but thanks to the member and what we're going to do to prevent diabetes and care for people, we're going to get there.
Member for London Fanshawe.
Today, media reported that a law guaranteeing the rights of sexual assault survivors in the military has not been fully implemented by this Liberal government. For 6 years, this government has ignored the Deschamps report, which outlined concrete actions to fix the toxic culture in the armed forces. In that time, thousands of service people reported sexual misconduct. How many more people will have to be abused before this government acts? Will the Prime Minister commit to implementing all the Deschamps report recommendations by the end of next year?
The Honourable Minister of Defence.
I thank the honourable member for that question, and I want to say, first off, that our government takes all allegations of sexual misconduct very seriously. The Canadian Armed Forces must be an institution where all individuals feel safe, respected, and protected. As the member opposite knows, I accepted the interim basis recommendation of Madam Justice Arbour on November 4th to transfer cases from the military justice system to the civil justice system. We are preparing the groundwork to accept the recommendations of Madam Justice Arbour when she provides them to us next year. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Canadian Heritage. In my riding of Spadina, Fort York, people have raised concerns about the rise of racism in our community. They're worried about the violence and harassment that they're witnessing online and in person. And as a member of the BIPOC community, as someone of Asian heritage, anti-Asian hate is a sad reality. Many of my neighbors in Spadina, Fort York also know this far too well. That's unacceptable. But whether it's anti-Asian racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any form of hate, hate is hate. And any strategy developed must eradicate this whenever and wherever it rears its ugly head. Could the minister update the House on the vital work in combating racism and anti-Asian hate?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, since 2019, our government has committed close to $100 million through Canada's anti-racism strategy, including $70 million to support community organizations across Canada addressing issues of anti-racism and multiculturalism. And we're the first government in Canadian history to listen to Black Canadians when they said that they need capacity building funding and funding for infrastructure. And that is why I'm happy to report that through the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative and other initiatives, we are for the first time investing in building the capacity of organizations that have done so much, Mr. Speaker, for so long with so little.
And that's all the time we have for question period today. C'est tout le temps que nous avons. Nous avons un appel au règlement de l'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean, a point of order, please. Mr. Speaker, there has been consultation between the parties, and I hope you will find that there is unanimous consent for the following motion. Given the credible reports that the Chinese government is arbitrarily detaining 2 million people in Xinjiang and is responsible for crimes against humanity against the Uyghur minority, it is important to consider the UN Convention on Genocide. Given the crimes committed against Turkic peoples in eastern Turkestan and the Uyghurs, and given that media is not being allowed to enter Xinjiang, and that includes the High Commissioner of the UN for Refugees, at the 47th sitting of the UN Human Rights Council in June, given that previously other Olympic Games have been delayed due to a pandemic or war, and given that the 7th Assembly of the World Uyghur Congress has resolved in Prague to ask the International Olympic Committee to move or delay the 2022 Beijing Olympic Games, that the House of Commons requests that the IOC firstly delay the Games by 1 year until 2023 so that an independent commission can go to Xinjiang. Secondly, that an alternative be found and that the Games be moved if, firstly, China refuses to welcome an independent observer mission, and secondly, if there is such a mission, if it finds that human rights are being violated, that the Games be moved. Thank you.
Je veux rappeler à tous les députés que quand ils mènent quelque chose...
I would like to remind all members to be as concise as possible. Just in general, an observation. Given that this is a hybrid sitting of the House, For clarity, I would ask only those who are against this request to speak up now.
Nous n'avons pas l'unanimité.
We do not have unanimous consent.
No. Okay. That's it. That's it. Orders of the day. Orders of the day.
Ordre du jour, resuming consideration on the items and reply to the speech from the throne et sur l'amendement de M. Blanchet.
Oh, no, sorry. Okay. Huh? No. Getting up to the point of order. Okay, we have 3 minutes remaining for the honorable. Oh, you're getting up? Okay, I've got all these heads popping up, and they're so excited to get into the session. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't skipping anyone. The honourable member for Carleton has 3 minutes remaining for questions. Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Louis Saint.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Like everyone else, I was listening closely to what the member for Carleton was saying just before QP. And there were various questions to the government regarding what it is going to do about inflation. Unfortunately, we've heard a lot of words, but not concrete action. I'd like the member for Carleton to tell us about his perspective when he, like all of us, sees that the federal government has no plan in order to do something about inflation, and even worse,